The twin suns of Valoria rose slowly over the silver city. Golden light touched the marble towers and glass bridges. Flags of the royal house moved gently in the morning wind. And outside the main gate of the queen's palace, a tall human guard stood without moving. His armor was black and polished, his face calm and cold. He stood straight with his hands behind his back, his eyes scanning everything without blinking. His name was Ethan Rourke, a soldier from Earth, assigned to protect Queen Elira's court after the peace treaty between humans and the Valorians. But he did not speak much, he did not smile. He simply stood like a statue, silent, still strong. Inside the silver carriage approaching the gate, Queen Elira sat in silence. She had returned from a visit to the Outer Moons, where rebellion still burned in small pockets. She was tired but proud her people still trusted her, still followed her. She had ruled Valoria for 20 years, ever since she banished her ex-husband Tharian. He had tried to take her crown, tried to twist her mind, tried to turn the people against her. She had stopped him, but his shadow never left her heart. The carriage stopped at the main palace gate. 2 alien guards in silver armor bowed and opened the doors. Queen Elira stepped out, her long violet robe flowing behind her, her crown shining under the light of the suns. And then she saw him, the human guard, standing by the gate, still and tall, her eyes locked onto his face. She froze in place. Her body went cold. Her heart began to race. The sound of the palace, the voices of her guards, even the wind, had all disappeared. All she could see was him. He looked exactly like Tharian, not just similar, not just close, but exact. The same sharp jawline, the same deep-set eyes, the same scar above the lip. Even the way he stood, arms behind his back, chest out, was the same. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, and for a moment, she was back in the past. Back when Tharian stood beside her on the throne. Back when his lies were still hidden behind soft words. Back when she still believed he loved her. But Ethan said nothing. He simply bowed, his face unreadable. Then he returned to his position, guarding the gate like any other soldier. Elira blinked. The spell broke. But her heart was still racing, her mind still spinning. "Your Majesty," one of her alien guards said softly, "is something wrong?" She didn't answer. She walked past Ethan slowly, unable to take her eyes off him. Even as she entered the palace, she turned her head for one last look. He remained at his post, not even watching her, but she felt it. There was something more. Something hidden that night. She stood by her balcony, watching the city lights glow below. Her hands shook slightly as she remembered his face. It couldn't be a coincidence. No human should look like Tharian, not like that, not so perfectly. What did it mean? Was he sent here to spy on her? Was this a test? A warning? A trick from Tharian himself? Or was the past just playing games with her heart and mind? She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She was the queen of Valoria, strong, wise and unshaken. But tonight, something had shaken her. Not a sword, not a threat, not a war, just a face. The face of a human who looked like the one who once tried to destroy her. And tomorrow she would find out who he really was. Because Queen Elira was done with ghosts, she wanted answers, and Ethan Rourke. He had just become the biggest mystery in her life. Queen Elira could not sleep. She lay in her royal chamber, the ceiling above glowing softly with the stars of Valoria's sky. Outside, the wind moved through crystal trees, making a sound like quiet singing. But inside her heart, there was no peace, only questions. She sat up, her robe falling from her shoulders, and stared into the mirror. Her face was still calm, still proud, but her eyes were full of fire, the human. Ethan Rourke, he was the reason. For her restless night, he looked so much like Tharian. It almost felt like a dream or a warning. Was the universe playing tricks? Or was someone planning something? She walked slowly to the console by her desk and pressed a button. "General Elver," she said firmly, "come to my chamber." Now, within minutes, the tall blue-skinned alien officer arrived. He stood at attention, his silver armor shining under the soft lights. "Your Majesty," he bowed. "Is everything all right? Who is the human stationed at the East Gate today?" She asked, her voice sharp. Elver blinked, surprised by the question. "Ethan Rourke, my queen. From Earth's Unity Cores, assigned 6 months ago." "Give me everything," she said. "Full background, full report now." Elver didn't argue. He bowed and left at once. While waiting, Alira walked to the wide balcony and looked out at the sleeping city, so peaceful. And yet something dark was moving beneath it. She could feel it. Her thoughts drifted back to Tharian. It had been almost a decade since she banished him. Once, he stood beside her, ruled beside her, loved her, or at least pretended to, but when his true plans were revealed, he had tried to start a war. She had stopped him, but she had never forgotten his face, and now that same face had returned, on a human body. She turned as the doors opened again. Elver stepped inside, holding a small device in his hand. "The report," he said, handing it to her. She pressed play, and a soft voice began to read. Name: Ethan Rourke. Age: 28 Earth years. Species: human. Birthplace: New Toronto, Earth. Parents: Father Daniel Rourke. Deceased human soldier. Mother unknown. Training: Earth Unity Cores. Special Forces Division. Service record: clean, 5 stars in conduct, 2 medals for bravery. Alira frowned. No mention of Tharian, no signs of false identity, no history of lies or violence, but one detail stood out. Mother unknown. She paused the report. "Elver," she said slowly, "has his DNA been scanned?" Elver shook his head. "Not yet, Your Majesty, but we can request it." "Do it," she ordered, and quietly. Elver bowed again and left. Now alone, Alira moved to the window once more. If Ethan was just a soldier, then why did his face haunt her like this? Why did he carry the shadow of someone who had tried to destroy her? Hours passed, and the stars above shifted. A new day was coming, but she had no rest. Later that morning, her servant brought her tea and placed it gently on the table. But Alira didn't touch it. She sat there, staring at the security screen. On the wall, it showed the guard post, and Ethan standing there again. Same position, same silence, same face. She zoomed in, watched him breathe, blink, adjust his gloves. But then, something strange. Ethan slowly reached into his armor and pulled out a small object. Alira leaned closer. It was a photo, worn and torn at the edges. He looked at it for a few seconds, then gently folded it and placed it back into his jacket. "Freeze." "Image," she commanded. The screen stopped. She zoomed in again. Her heart skipped. The photo. It was her. A younger version, wearing battle robes, standing proudly with a sword in hand. It was a photo taken during the early days of her rule, when she led her people to peace after war. Why would a human soldier carry a picture of her from so long ago? It made no sense, unless... She swallowed hard. Unless he wasn't here by chance. Unless he had a reason, a mission, a purpose, something connected to her past, and to the man who once called her wife. Now the question wasn't just who Ethan Rourke was, but why he had come here and what he wanted from her. Alira stood slowly, her eyes fixed on the screen, her voice cold and quiet. "Summon him to my chamber," she said, "tonight." Night fell over Valoria like a soft black curtain. Stars blinked in the sky, and cool winds moved through the high towers of the palace. Guards stood at their posts, eyes sharp, armor glowing under the lights. But in the Queen's chamber, something far more dangerous was happening. Questions. Queen Alira paced the marble floor slowly, her long robe brushing against the ground. She had watched the screen over and over, the photo in Ethan's hands, the way he stared at it with care. It wasn't just odd, it was personal. Her fingers tightened behind her back. That photo was not easy to find. It was taken during the war, during a time when most humans didn't even know her name. Only one person had ever kept it close, Tharian. But Tharian was gone, vanished after his exile. No word, no signal, no body. And yet his face had appeared again, wearing human skin, wearing a soldier's name. She turned sharply as the door chimed. "Enter," she said, her voice cold and steady. The door slid open. Ethan Rourke stepped. In he stood tall, wearing his black armor, helmet tucked under one arm. He bowed respectfully. "You summoned me, Your Majesty?" he asked, his voice low but calm. Alira studied him for a long moment before speaking. "Yes," she said, walking slowly around him. "Tell me, Ethan, do you know who I am?" "Yes," he said simply. "You are Queen Alira of Valoria, leader of the Silver Moons and protector of the outer worlds. And have we met before?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "No, Your Majesty," he replied. "This is my first assignment in your court." She stopped behind him, her voice sharper now. "Then tell me why you carry a photo of me." He didn't move for a few seconds. There was only silence. Then he spoke quietly. "I didn't mean to hide it, Your Majesty. My father gave it to me when I was a boy." Her heart jumped. "Your father?" she asked carefully, stepping closer. "Who was he?" "Daniel Rourke," Ethan replied. "A soldier in the Earth Unity Corps. He served in the old Alliance Wars. That name does not appear in Valorian records," Alira said firmly. "Why did he have my photo?" Ethan hesitated again. "I don't know," he admitted. "He never explained, only said that you were a strong leader. He respected you. Said you saved many lives." Alira's jaw tightened. "It didn't add up. Too clean, too smooth. Something was missing." "And your mother?" she asked. "Who was she?" "I never knew her," Ethan said softly. "He told me she died before I could remember her." Alira stepped back. Her thoughts were spinning. A human father with a photo of her, a missing alien mother, a face that matched Therian's exactly. Was this a game of fate or a carefully placed lie? She turned away from him and walked to the window. Below, the lights of the city flickered gently. Ethan stood still behind her, waiting, not daring to speak. "Have you ever heard of Therian?" she asked suddenly, not turning around. There was a pause. Then Ethan said, "Only stories, Your Majesty. He was a war hero who later betrayed the crown." Her eyes narrowed. "He was also my husband," she whispered this time. Ethan didn't answer. The room felt colder now, like something ancient had woken. Alira finally turned to face him again. "I will have your DNA tested," she said, her voice firm but calm. "This is not an accusation, only a step to understand the truth." "I understand," Ethan said. "I have nothing to hide." She looked into his eyes. They were not cruel like Therian's, but they held something familiar. "Dismissed," she said quietly. Ethan bowed and left the chamber. The doors closed behind him. And Alira stood in silence. Her heart beat heavy in her chest. She called her chief scientist at once. "Run a full DNA scan on the human guard, Ethan Rourke," she said, "and match it to Therian." "Yes, Your Majesty," came the reply. Alira ended the call and sat down, her hands shaking just slightly. If her guess was right, if Ethan was not just a soldier, but a blood link to Therian, then everything would change. The past was no longer behind her, it was standing guard at her door. The next morning, Queen Alira sat on her throne, but her mind was not in the grand hall. Her eyes scanned reports, but her heart was waiting. Waiting for the results, waiting for the truth, waiting for the ghost of her past to speak again. She had not told anyone the real reason she ordered the DNA scan, not even her closest guards or advisors. They only knew she wanted to verify a new recruit. But inside, she knew it was more than that. If Ethan Rourke was who she feared he might be, then the past had not just returned. It had taken shape and stood at her gate. Her thoughts were broken by a soft beep. A private message blinked on the screen near her chair. "DNA results ready. Secure file access required." She rose without a word and walked to her private chamber. Once the doors were sealed, she placed her hand on the scanner and leaned forward. The screen lit up. A face appeared, her chief scientist. "Dr. Rilar, Your Majesty," he greeted with a nod. "The DNA results are complete. Tell me everything. She said quickly, her voice firm. Dr. Rilar looked slightly nervous. We matched Ethan Rourke's DNA to Therian. There's a 99.8% match in paternal markers. Elira's breath caught. So he is. Yes, Dr. Rilar confirmed. Ethan is the biological son of Therian. She turned away from the screen, walking slowly across the room. Her thoughts raced, her hands trembling. Her worst fear had become real. But the next question hit harder. What about the mother? She asked quietly. There was a pause. Dr. Rilar's voice softened. The maternal DNA also shows markers from Valerian royalty. He cleared his throat. It matches. Your Majesty. Elira froze. Her heart pounded. No, she whispered. That's not possible. I never. We checked it 3 times, he said. There's no mistake. Elira dropped into her seat. Memories rushed through her mind. Old battles, political storms, moments lost in war. She had been injured once, long ago. Near death after a battle with rebels. She had spent days in healing stasis, drifting in and out of sleep. Could Therian have taken something from her? Used her DNA without permission? Or had he hidden a child from her? The thought made her feel cold. She looked at the screen again. And Ethan? Does he know? Dr. Rilar shook his head. There is no sign that he's aware of his parents. He truly believes his mother died long ago. Elira ended the call. She stood in silence for a long time, her hands pressed tightly together. Ethan Rourke was her son, the son she never knew, the child of her enemy and herself, a living echo of the war, a living key to something she did not understand yet. She walked to the balcony, looking out over the quiet gardens. The wind brushed her face, cool and light. She thought about Ethan, his calm eyes, his quiet nature, his loyalty. He had shown no sign of darkness, no sign of lies. But still, he carried the blood of Therian. Could she trust him? Could she accept him? Was he even ready to know the truth? She didn't know, but one thing was clear. This secret could not stay hidden forever. The past had returned in the form of a quiet human guard, and now, the Queen had to decide what to do with him. Later that night, she sent a message. Meet me in the moonlight chamber, midnight, alone. Queen Elira. When the time came, Ethan arrived, still in uniform. He stood tall, respectful, unsure why he had been called. The chamber was quiet, lit only by the pale moonlight shining through the glass roof. It was the most private place in the entire palace. No cameras, no guards, no eyes, only truth. Queen Elira walked toward him slowly, her robe whispering across the marble floor. She stopped in front of him and looked into his face, not as a ruler, not as a stranger, but as something more. Do you trust me, Ethan? She asked softly. He blinked in surprise but nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. She took a slow breath. Then listen carefully, because your life is about to change. The moonlight fell gently across the stone floor of the chamber. Ethan stood still, unsure why the Queen had asked him to meet her alone. His heart beat steady, but something about her eyes so calm, so deep, made him nervous. Queen Elira looked at him for a long time, not like a ruler watching a soldier, but like someone staring at a mystery they were afraid to solve. She took a step closer and spoke softly. I ran a scan on your DNA, Ethan, she said. He blinked, surprised, but said nothing. She continued. Your father was Therian. For a moment, time stopped. Ethan's eyes widened, his breath caught. The traitor general? He asked quietly. Elira nodded. Yes, he was my husband once, before he betrayed me in the crown. Ethan looked down, confused. My father told me very little, he said. He died when I was young. I never knew who my mother was. Elira paused, her voice even softer now. Your mother, she said, was me. Silence, pure silence. The wind outside touched the glass softly, but inside the room, nothing moved. Ethan stared at her, frozen in place. That's not possible, he whispered. I would have known. I didn't know either, Elira said. her hands folded in front of her. I never carried a child, never gave birth, but your DNA. It matches mine. She stepped away, her voice heavier. There was a time I was injured. During the last rebellion, I was placed in healing stasis for days. She looked at him again, pain flashing in her eyes. I believe Therion took my DNA while I was unconscious without my consent. Ethan's hands slowly curled into fists. A quiet storm started inside him. His whole life, he thought he was the son of a hero. Then he learned he was the son of a traitor. And now, the queen he served, the woman he respected, was his mother. Why didn't he tell me? Ethan whispered, more to himself than to her. Why did he lie to me? Illyra came closer. I don't know, she said gently. But you have a right to know who you are. She paused, then added, and now, you must choose what you want to be. Ethan lifted his head slowly. I'm not him, he said. Voice firm. I'm not Therion. Illyra nodded once. I believe that, she replied. But others may not. He looked at her, confusion on his face. Why tell me this now? She looked away for a second, then answered, because something is coming. There are whispers of Therion's followers gathering again, in the outer zones. They may return, and they may use you, your blood, your name as a symbol. Ethan shook his head. I won't let that happen, he said. I serve this court. I serve you. She studied him again. I want to believe that, she said quietly. But trust is built, not gifted. He nodded, understanding the weight of her words. What do you want me to do? She turned back to the center of the chamber and pressed a small control on her bracelet. A section of the floor opened, and a table rose slowly. On it sat a silver datapad and a royal ring. I'm offering you a path, she said, to prove yourself and to know who you truly are. She pointed to the datapad. A ship is leaving tomorrow on a mission to the outer moons. There are signs of Therion's followers there. You will lead the security team. Ethan stared at the ring. It was small, elegant, and marked with the royal crest of Valoria. You want me to carry your symbol? He asked, voice low. No, she said firmly. I want you to earn it. He understood. She was not giving him the title of prince. She was giving him a test, a chance to become more than a shadow of his father. He reached forward and picked up the datapad. I'll go, he said, and I'll return with truth. Illyra gave him a slow nod. In the end, blood doesn't make us loyal, she said. Our choices do. As Ethan turned to leave, his heart still heavy, something inside him began to change. He had come to this world a guard. He was now walking away as something more, a son, a soldier, and maybe a key to peace. And as the door closed behind him, Queen Illyra stood alone, still not ready to call him son, but no longer able to see him as just a stranger. The transport ship lifted off in the quiet of early morning. Its engines hummed low, pushing it toward the outer moons of Valoria. Inside, Ethan sat with his helmet resting in his lap. His team was ready, 6 elite soldiers, chosen for their loyalty and skill. But none of them knew the full truth. None of them knew that their mission was more than just patrol. Ethan kept his eyes forward, but his mind was filled with the Queen's words. He was Therion's son, and now he was going to face the same rebels his father once led. The shuttle rocked slightly as it entered the moon's weak atmosphere. A pale, red landscape came into view, dry and empty. But below the surface, the Queen's spies had reported signs of movement, heat signatures, hidden tunnels, coded signals. The rebels were there, and they were waiting. The ship landed near a rocky outcrop. Dust blew across the metal ramp as the soldiers stepped down. Weapons ready, Ethan took the lead, his black armor reflecting the rising sun. The entrance to the underground tunnels was hidden beneath an old mining structure. With a silent signal, Ethan led his team forward, down into the dark, cold earth. As they moved deeper, he felt something strange, a pressure in the air, a sense of being watched. Old instincts kicked in, his father's instincts. No, his instincts. He was not Therion. He was Ethan Rourke, and he had something to prove. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from the tunnel ahead. A whistle, then a blast, a trap. Down! Ethan shouted, pulling his team to cover. The explosion shook the walls. Dust and smoke filled the narrow space. Screams followed, and then laser fire. Rebels emerged from the shadows masked. Fast armed, it was an ambush. But Ethan's team fought back with precision. Shots fired, bodies moved. The tunnel became a storm of noise and light. Ethan pushed forward, ducking under beams. Covering his men, he spotted one of the rebel leaders slipping through a hidden door. Without a word, Ethan chased him alone. The passage grew tighter, colder. Ethan moved fast. Heart pounding, he turned a corner and stopped there. Standing in the middle of the room was a tall figure in black armor, no helmet, silver hair, sharp red eyes. Therion. The man looked older, worn by time, but his presence still burned like fire. He smiled coldly. So, my son finally comes to meet me. Ethan's hand tightened on his weapon. I'm not your son, he said, voice hard. Not anymore, Therion chuckled. But you carry my blood, my strength. You came here because you wanted to understand yourself. And here I am. Ethan raised his gun. You're a traitor. I'm a visionary, Therion replied. And you're part of that vision. Why serve a queen who never wanted you? She didn't know, Ethan snapped. You used her like you used everyone. Therion stepped forward. You think loyalty will save you? He said, she will never accept you. To her, you're just a reminder of what she lost. Ethan stood firm. I'm not here for her forgiveness, he said. I'm here to stop you. Therion's smile faded. Then do it, he said coldly. Let's see what kind of son I truly made. He drew his own weapon, elegant energy blade. Glowing with red light, Ethan dropped his rifle and activated his combat knife. The two clashed in the dark, sparks flying, steel against plasma. Father against son. They fought hard, each strike filled with rage. But Ethan didn't fight for revenge. He fought for peace, for the right to choose who he was, at last. He disarmed Therion with a powerful blow, knocking the blade across the room. He held his knife to his father's neck, breathing hard, but he didn't strike. Instead, he said, You lost the day you turned your back on honor. I'm nothing like you. Therion's eyes burned with hate, but he didn't speak. Ethan called in his team, and Therion was arrested without another word. Back at the palace, Queen Alira received the report. Her son had returned, and he had brought her greatest enemy in chains. She stood at the landing bay as Ethan stepped off the ship. Their eyes met, and for the first time, she saw him fully not as a soldier, but as her blood and her hope. She nodded once. Welcome home, Ethan, she said softly. And this time, she meant it. The great hall of the Valorian palace was silent. Rows of high officers, nobles, and commanders stood on both sides of the room. At the center, under the shining light of the twin suns, stood Ethan Rourke. His armor was scratched and marked from battle, his left arm wrapped in a bandage, but his eyes were steady, calm behind him. Two guards dragged Therion in chains. The once feared general, now bruised and beaten. He kept his head high, but his power was gone. Queen Alira stood at the top of the marble stairs, her crown glowing under the sky window above. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. She looked at Therion first, the man she had once loved, the man who betrayed her, now brought back by the very son he had tried to hide. Therion, she said, her voice echoing through the hall. You were given a second chance, and you chose war again. For crimes against the people of Valoria, you are sentenced to life in the ice caves of Seren. Therion did not reply. He only looked once briefly at Ethan, and then lowered his head. The guards took him away, and silence returned. Then Alira's eyes turned to Ethan. He stood tall, not seeking reward, not expecting praise, but something had changed in him, something strong, something noble. You faced the darkness of your blood, Alira said softly. and chose honor instead of hatred. You protected the people, risked your life, and brought peace. Ethan bowed his head. I only did what I believed was right, he said. She stepped down from the stairs, slowly, until they stood face to face. For years, I feared what Therion had left behind, she said. But now, I see. What he left behind might be what saves us. She reached into her robe and pulled out the royal ring, the one she had shown him before. Only now she held it out, open. This time you have earned it, she said. Ethan looked at the ring. He hesitated. So many eyes were watching, so many years of questions behind him. But in this moment, he felt clear. He reached forward and took the ring. The crowd bowed their heads in silent respect, not because of his blood, not because of his name, but because of his actions. Later that night, the queen stood alone in the royal gardens. She looked up at the stars, her hands folded in front of her. She had carried pain for many years, the betrayal, the silence, the secrets. But now something had healed. Footsteps approached softly. Ethan walked beside her. Dressed in formal robes, without armor, he looked different now, lighter, stronger, more like himself. Beautiful night, he said quietly. She nodded. It is. They stood side by side. No titles, no thrones, just two people connected by truth. I still don't know what I am, Ethan said softly. I'm part human, part Valorian, part shadow, part light. She looked at him with kind eyes. You're not a shadow, she said. You are a bridge, a path between two worlds. He looked at her. Do you think I could ever be more than just a guard? She smiled, a small but real smile. You already are, she said. You're my son. For a long moment, they said nothing more, no grand speeches, no royal words. Just quiet peace between two hearts long separated, as the wind moved through. The garden trees and the stars above watched in silence. A new future began, one not built on blood, but on choice, and Ethan Rourke, once a nameless guard, now stood as a symbol of something greater, a hope that even broken lines could be rewritten, and that sometimes the past returns not to destroy, but to heal.